Margaret, it's John. I've wandered a few blocks away from the restaurant where I was talking to you to a spot that I seem to keep coming back to 3 times out of 4 days. I've ended up here. This dude here is a guy named Augustin Lara, and he obviously was a smoker, so I just had a smoke with him. And he's a guy who's much beloved in this town. I knew nothing about him, still mostly don't know stuff about him. But that's him up there, Augustin Lara. And they call this house Casa Lara. Maybe he lived here. He may have lived here. They do a lot with historic stuff in this town. And he was a musician, a piano player. And when I was here Sunday morning, I was sitting here having a smoke with him, and I had my big white sombrero on him, and this lovely maybe 50-ish couple came by, and in Spanish they asked if the guy could sit here next to his buddy Augustin and his wife could take a picture. And I said sure. And I asked them if they wanted me to remove my sombrero. I took it off, and they said no, put it back, we like that. And they obviously were very fond of him. He was, I think, an educator and influenced young people in a good way. This town has a big history of that. The Alameda Park, where I park my car, is dedicated to a guy named Soler, who created some kind of, it's a fantasy comic book kind of figures that they call Cree, C-R-I, and I still haven't looked that up either. But he apparently taught in a school right by that park and influenced young people. And all through that park, there are these Disney-ish characters, life-size. And there's another little park that's also dedicated to Cree. So it's part of the magic of this town. Our conversation was so great. One way I was thinking about it afterwards was that you're letting go. It's not that you're not trying. Well, yeah, you're not. You were trying too much, and now you're trying less. And it's a good thing. The thing I left out of my description about my waking up experience was it was all about letting go. I had hit bottom, gave up more completely than I ever had before, knew that within the next couple of days I was going to kill myself. And that created a vacuum. That totally letting go created a space where life could come in and take over. It's almost identical to what happened to Eckhart Tolle. He was at the bottom. Byron Katie, I bet you know about Byron Katie and the work. Same deal. She was going to shoot herself the next day and woke up fine. So it's about letting go and creating space for spirit to come in and take over. And I think you're going through your own version of that process. You're letting go more. The other stuff that I never got to say, I had sent you this morning a longish text and a video along with it, neither of which got delivered, and it's because I'm out of minutes. So my phone service is only working at Wi-Fi because I don't have data minutes. And today I'll rectify that when hopefully I get that big check cashed, the $200 check. Thank you. But what I said in that video was this morning I went into the Human Resources office and asked for the assistant to Maria Hernandez, the manager of Human Resources for the city of Orizaba. And she came out, and I hadn't even gotten her name the first meeting. It's Bianca. And I said, you guys I sent my report to you on Friday. I haven't heard anything back about what's going on. And she said, well, he has been disciplined. He's taken a cut in pay. I didn't capture whether he's not at the jail anymore, but he's being monitored very closely supervised. He has to go for therapy. And I had been rooting for him to get fired, but they know more about personnel issues than I do. I never was an HR generalist. Because the way they thought it out was, if we fire him, he's got very little to lose. He's going to go after John. Really, that's the way they thought it out, and that's the way I was thinking it. But I didn't make the connection that, firing him is a bad thing. They said if we've got him on a rehab program and he knows there's the chance to rebuild his career again, he's got everything to lose if he makes any misstep like messing with you. So that was great. I just immediately dropped all my fears. She said a couple of times, no, you don't have to worry. He won't do anything. So now I'm free to just hang out in Orizaba longer. I thought I was going to have to run. I don't have to run. And the other thing that happened this morning before that was I encountered a really amazing guy named Moises, who I had met in the park a couple weeks before, and he has two adorable dogs that are totally off leash and so well behaved. And he's got perfect English. He's a consultant, and he consults to Mexican companies teaching English to their staff. And he lives right next to the park too. And he's wanting to launch a podcast because he meets all these really interesting international people and he wants to interview them. And it looks like I'm going to be the first guest on his podcast. And that's great because I do have a podcast that pops up when you Google my name. It shows two wizards with big white beards talking to each other. And it's, you might enjoy it. It's like a 40-minute interview with a smart guy, but he's pretty new agey. A little too much, a little too full of himself, and it's old. It's like 3 years old, from Louisville, Kentucky, and no Mexico, and I want to talk about Mexico. So Moises is this guy's name. He's moving into a new office, real busy this week, but sometime probably next week we'll go out for coffee and talk about the podcast. And he's got the same idea I do. Put a couple of I didn't know if he was doing a video podcast, but that's what he wants to do, is videos. Put a couple videos in the can, and then when he's ready to launch the podcast, they'll have them. So that's exciting. So I do want to stick around for that, because that could help get the word out. I'm waiting to see if there's anything else I want to say to you. You're so lovable, such a seeker. And right in the middle of not seeking, you're doing what the Buddha said: doubt everything, find your own light. You're more opening yourself up to finding your own light, and it's breathtaking. I think your process is right on target. I trust it totally, and talking with you is a gift, really a gift. And you listen so well. That story I told about hitting bottom and about almost committing suicide, last time I told that story, I was racked with pain. I was doing it in text messages to this Tinder chick, and she was interested. She was genuinely interested. I went through hell telling that story, and it was a lot easier today. And you are a world-class listener, world-class. So, and a great affirmer. Really, you're hot. You do that so well. So thank you. Gracias. Part of the reason Mexicans are so positive is they say "sí" hundreds of times a day. Sí, sí. They'll say "sí" just to mean I heard you. Or I've learned, I do a Mexican thing, I'll say "sí" to indicate, not to indicate, but what it expresses is, I have no idea what you just said, but I'm really not interested in talking about it anymore. So they say "sí" all the time. And they say gracias all the time. And in this part of Mexico, when you ask people how they are, 80% of the time the response will be muy bien, great, gracias a Dios. They give credit to God. So, buena amiga, gracias a Dios.